Great. All right, welcome to the December 11th, 2024 Board of Park and Recreation meeting. Let's do roll call. Brian Cambridge.
Here.
Michael Kaufman.
Here.
Chris Barksdale.
Here.
Kimberly Lane. Here. Chad Dilley. Matt Milburn.
Here.
We have a
Chad's here. I believe Chad will be here shortly.
Chad, yeah, I think he just had to go to the bathroom possibly, so. All right, approval of the November 13th, 2024 minutes. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes as presented?
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Abstaining as I wasn't present.
I abstain.
Pass, so,
2 abstentions.
with 2 abstentions. All right, public presentation and comments. Anyone online, anyone up in the audience who'd like to talk? All right, staff reports. Superintendent Jared Logsdon.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Park Board. Just want to highlight a couple of items from the superintendent report. The wing sculpture at the Zionsville Road trailhead was removed, repaired, and reinstalled. So if you noticed, it was gone for a little bit and had trolls in its place. Those have been removed, and the wing structure is back up there. So again, we appreciate Mark for his assistance. He was the original artist that sculpted it, and he, on his dime, assisted us in taking it out and repairing it, so we appreciate that. Earlier in the month, we attended the DNR Visionary Trails charrette. So this is a charrette to reimagine the visionary trail system throughout Indiana and identify new corridors that are coming online as communities begin to add more and more trails to their systems. And a visionary trail is any trail that extends beyond 2 counties. So our Big 4 Rail Trail has the opportunity to become a visionary trail as we extend into Clinton County, into Colfax, and as well as the Midland Trace Trail, which travels across Hamilton County and has the opportunity to cross through Boone and then to our south with Hendricks County. So all great things on the way for Indiana's trail system. The maintenance team also installed a 10x20 bike pad at Zionsville Christian Church. This was a part of that SEBA grant from earlier in the year that we received. That's the Central Indiana Bicycle Association. They awarded us those grant dollars to install bike repair stations. So there will be a series of 4 of those along the rail trail within the spring of next year. So this was just the first pad in that series. C&J Well went out to Carpenter Nature Preserve and officially decommissioned the existing high-velocity wells that were on site. So that was a part of the irrigation system that used to be at the golf course, something we wanted to decommission and cap before we get out there with our park. So they have completed that work, and that report will be forthcoming to IDEM and the state to officially decommission those high-volume wells. And finally, if you've driven on Oak Street into the village, you've likely noticed the Lincoln lights. So this season, for the first time, Lincoln has been lit up by a generous partnership and sponsorship by Hometown Lawns. So we appreciate that opportunity to beautify our village district in the holiday season. And that's all from the superintendent report.
Fantastic. I was wondering, as I drove by, I've never noticed that, so that's looked really good, so thank you.
Yeah, same. I think we talked about it like a year ago, how cool that would be, and then
Lo and behold.
Bob's your uncle, there it is.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions for Jared? All right, next is Director of Recreation Services, Mindy Murdoch. How you doing, Mindy?
Good evening, everyone. All right, so November is a little interesting that with the holidays and things going on, we did spend a lot of time being closed at the Nature Center. but still had a great November. We ended up with a little over 1,000 walk-ins to that nature center. So we are just about 600 shy of beating last year's walk-in attendance, and we still have December to get through. So we did a few programs out at Union and Trailside Elementary. The third graders there do kind of an animal specialty that they pick. I know at Trailside they call it Beast Feast. So they did invite us out to do some programming kind of tied in with the completion of their projects for those two schools. Outside of that, the big one happening in November is that our entire naturalist staff and myself went to the 2024 EEAI, which is the Environmental Education Association of Indiana Conference, which was held in Indianapolis at the Indianapolis Zoo this year. We actually had two of our staff actually presented. So Rachel Felling presented on our Nature Connections program. So she had a very huge crowd. Over 40 people attended her talk. And then Sierra Stewart, Natural Sierra Stewart, did a presentation on social media, since you guys know this. Sierra's kind of our guru when it comes to kind of quirky little videos that we put out on social media. So in addition to that one, I was actually the conference chair for the conference. So I'm happy that that one is done, because that was a lot of work. But the big thing was that Rachel was actually awarded the Joe Wright Recognition of Excellence Award for her work with Nature Connections and with IMN at that conference. So that was a great opportunity to present her with that award, and she very well deserved on that one. So we did our new event, Smashing Pumpkins, right at the beginning of November, and that was a huge hit. Over 300 people came out, and with mallets, just took some anger out on some pumpkins. Had a great time. So definitely see that one coming back next year and growing. We had a lot of people say, hey, next year can I bring more pumpkins? Can I donate pumpkins? So I'm sure there'll be more pumpkins. The fire department threw pumpkins off their ladder truck, and they've already asked if they can throw more next year. So we said, that's fine. We'll work something out on that one. And then we kicked off our Winterfest season with the Trail Hopper and the staff being at the Christmas at the Village parade. So Winterfest is ongoing. We had Makers Market last weekend. About 2,500 people came out. It was a fantastic market. And then this weekend is Christmas in the Park. So unless you guys have any questions, that's my report.
Fantastic work as always. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, and thank you for representing Zionsville by being the conference chair. That's impressive.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. Mulberry Fields concession stand bid. Jared?
Thank you. So earlier in this year, this board approved the construction plans for the Mulberry Fields concession stand, and that project was put out to bid. Those bids closed on December 5th at 3 p.m., and at which time we received 7 competitive bids. After review of those bids, we have selected Structure Midwest LLC as the lowest responsive bidder at a bid of $980,000. So this is around $17,000 lower than our engineer's estimate. So again, having a project come in just under our engineer's estimate, which is always nice. On the screen, you'll see just a rendering of what we're doing. Again, this is out of Mulberry Fields. It'll be right next to the first shelter you drive in as you enter the park, and it'll offer year-round restrooms as well as the concession stand for all of the activity out in that park. So with your consideration this evening, would request you entertain a motion to approve the Structure Point Midwest LLC bid at $980,000 and work towards executing that agreement pending final legal review. So happy to answer any questions concerning this project.
How many bids were there?
7. So we definitely advertised at the right time of year this time.
So I think just for the board to have good dialogue, I think your proposal, Jared, was to take it out of 4672, this and your carpenter proposal as well too. That's the 2012 impact fees, right?
Yes.
So that'll take the total account balance, should we approve Mulberry and what we're looking at with Carpenter, down to $713. I just think for the board, are we good with that, right? Let's just be clear where the funds are going, and are we good with that?
Yep.
And the answer could be yes, right? I mean, it could be like what the funds were intended to, but we're exhausting all those funds, and is that the right thing to do?
And I do want to provide a little background on impact fees. So since 2012, Zionsville has had an impact fee. So every new roof that comes up in our community has to pay towards that fee, and that is put into the kitty for later park development. So impact fees can only be utilized for certain amenities as our population grows and we maintain our level of service. So with our population exploding over the last decade since this fee was established, we have accrued a lot of these, and whether fortunately or unfortunately, they have been underutilized throughout our history as a park system. So much so that in the 2022 effort to develop the next 5-year master plan, we included in that scope of work the development of an impact fee tool so that we would know how to best utilize those funds with every parks project moving forward. So the reason we are expediting their use and feel this is the most responsive and responsible use of these impact fees is because, again, as I mentioned, they can only be utilized for certain amenities. And once we reach those thresholds, those are locked down until our population grows exponentially. So fortunately for us, concession stands and restrooms are two things that can be funded through these impact fees because we had a deficit throughout our park system, which we met in 2012, but we have lost since then. A couple of other amenities we can utilize, we will never be able to use impact fees on paved trails, which is one of our most requested amenities. So I actually did the math, and it would take over a population of 132,000 before we could utilize those. So even with our projections to double, we're not going to reach that population for some time. So that's just one example. But some of the other categories that we can use these impact fees are in parking spaces, sports fields, outdoor only, can't be utilized for indoor sports field arenas, rustic trails to a certain degree, and just a few other one-offs that are, so what we did with that 2023 master plan was prioritize the use of these whenever we had a parks project moving forward. So it is kind of the department's priority to get these 2012s off the book so we can focus on the 2022 fund, and then in a couple of years have the 2027 fund as well.
Are there provisions, because I've not read this whole agreement, for liquidated damages in this agreement?
Yes, within the AIA contract, working with REA, we include that in all of them.
But it was on the 324-page board packet on that one. I'm surprised Ryan, you didn't know the exact page number that was on.
I did last night, but then
I have a question about the tempered glass, the deduction, what reason to get rid of it? What, is there?
So just basing our budget, we wanted to have an alternative should we need to downgrade the glass. But
It's an option, just
it was an option as a deduction instead of an addition, like with Carpenter where we're proposing an option for addition.
Oh, so we're not saying we're doing that, that's just,
No,
okay.
we'll
all right,
we'll
that's
stick
fine.
with the base bid.
Gotcha,
Yep.
okay.
I make a motion to approve the contract or authorize Jared to execute the agreement.
Make a second? Roll call vote, Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Michael Kaufman,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane, Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Matt Milburn,
Aye.
and I, John Slevich, say aye as well, too. Motion carries. All right, Christmas in the Park reindeer service.
So much smaller contract for you all to consider. This Saturday, we have recruited reindeer to appear at Christmas in the Park. And this would be for a contract for $1,800 to have their services for a few hours at Elm Street Green. It's simply in the packet just because it's a contract rather than an invoice, so I require board approval on this one. Upon your approval, we'll print the check tomorrow and hand it to him this Saturday.
I mean, are these the same reindeer that have been used in multiple different?
We actually are utilizing a different service
Okay.
with a little bit of cost savings.
Okay.
I'm, I guess impressed there are multiple reindeer.
What is the demand?
Apparently, it's an untapped market.
Exactly.
Always trying to be good stewards of the dollar.
Okay.
So Jared, I think in the show The Santa Clauses, there's a reindeer named Chad. I just want to make sure there's no reindeer named Chad that'll be there. I'm just joking.
We'll have to verify that.
Yes, I have a motion to approve.
I'd love to second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right.
I'd like to note too that the reindeer make more per hour than most attorneys. Should have been a reindeer.
Right, should have been a reindeer. Okay. Shelter reservation policy update.
We had to dust off this one from 2022, but we wanted to update our shelter reservation policy to include Elm Street Green's upper pavilion, as well as the future pavilion at Carpenter Nature Preserve. So with Lincoln Park going under renovation next year, we wanted to offer an alternative in the village for the community, should there be any weddings, and we've actually already had interest in one for next year. So simply just adding 2 other shelters that can be reserved within our park system, one existing today and one that'll exist when Carpenter opens to the public. We have all of this framework attached to our MyRec software, so people can go online, provide electronic payments, and it's pretty smooth with our operations. It's been a huge success.
Comments? Any questions? Any concerns?
Motion to approve.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Wood of Elizabeth and Sylvester Johnson of Wild Air Farms donation.
Thank you, John. Myself, Amy Nooning, and the Park Board President, John, have been speaking with the Wild Air Development Team for about the past year about a potential land donation from the family. So the Wild Air family wanted to cement their legacy in Zionsville and be sure there was a portion of that farm that remained natural in perpetuity. So there is approximately 30 acres that is being proposed to be donated to the park system at no cost. That 30 acres is the wooded area you can see on the screen above, just below, well, it's actually titled the Johnson Preserve on this slide. Within that preserve, as mentioned, there is wetlands, and it's close to Fishback Creek. So again, providing critical habitat. I know just in my tenure here, I've received multiple calls of amphibians in the spring crossing Marysville Road, probably to get over to those vernal pools and reproduce. So incredibly important to the local ecology there, especially as more development occurs. So with your consideration, we could accept this 30-acre parcel to be turned into a public park. Now, this 30 acres does come with an existing conservation easement. This was placed on it by the Woods Land and Lake Conservation Land Trust. And within the Park Board packet was the terms of that conservation easement. None of them are too far beyond what we would want to do with a passive park. So concerning development, there can only be one perimeter trail within that preserve. Signage is limited within the preserve to the walking trail. We do have the autonomy to not only combat invasives appropriately, but also to address hazard trees or things that might be a threat to human activity in there. But again, the public will be invited to take a walk in the woods, but the core mission of that land and the values of the family were for it to be pristine and protected.
Do they define perimeter beyond the obvious? Like, is there a certain distance within the edge of the property line that trail has to be routed?
It is within, right at 50 feet from the edges. That was both coordinated with the family as well as the neighboring property owners that didn't want it right in their backyard. So a little bit of a buffer there. And it will be a 4-foot wide crushed aggregate trail, so designed to ADA standards.
They're putting that in themselves, right?
We'll talk about that next.
Okay, all right.
So right now, it's just for your consideration to accept the 30-acre land donation, to perpetually name that park the Woods of Elizabeth and Sylvester Johnson of Wild Air Farms, and to invite the public, but certainly understand that we have limited activities that we can or should do in there. So again, another component was, no 5Ks or picnic mashes or anything like that. It's truly just meant to be a walk in the woods for the public.
That means walking like in the woods and not just through the path.
Just on the trail, yeah, that's,
Just-
and we have signage throughout our park system about staying on the trails, so that's, we want to minimize disturbance anyways.
Before we make a motion on this, I think if accepted, as we think about signage along the trail or at the entrances, because it's a little bit different use case in terms of the sensitive ecology that's there, we may want to have some signage that sort of explains that and encourages people to stay on the trail beyond just our standard signage. That might also educate them about why those ecosystems are important, or, because I think there'll probably be a propensity for folks to meander and explore. At least that's what I would want to do, unless otherwise told not to. So see if we can make it an educational component too.
Yep,
So,
that's a great point, thank you.
but I'll make a motion to accept the 30 acres and the contingencies currently. Yeah, the conservation easement.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Thank you all. So there is a second component of this, and that is just acknowledging that there is a conservation easement. So your consideration to authorize the Park Board President to execute that document with Woods Land Lake Land Trust.
To accept. Have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Carries. All right, resolution 2024 through 07, impact fee, that's right, impact fees, yes, sorry.
As mentioned, so this potential park and adding it to our park system has been on our purview for over a year now, kind of as the project was mentioned to the community, the overall wild air development, that there would be some public parks associated with that. So working with that development team, we have come to a request for a waiver on impact fees. So with your consideration of waiving those impact fees, they would actually create that one perimeter trail that we just discussed within our park, as well as provide additional park amenities across the street, which we'll talk about in just a second. So just an overview of the wild air development. So it is 289 multifamily units, as well as 386 single-family homes. And this development has been approved. It's gone through the platting process, and it's moving towards actual construction. So construction, pulling building permits is when impact fees are applied to a developer, so that's why the request is coming before you now. So concerning improvements, that 30 acres we just discussed would be for the developer to establish that crushed aggregate trail to ADA standards around the perimeter of the park. So this trail was actually included in some of the exhibits of those closing documents for the deed. So it's very well documented and understood with the family as well as the developers and ourselves. In addition to that portion of the project, so for our park specifically, that is approximately $514,310 to install the signage at the trailhead of that nature preserve, the rustic loop, as well as a fence around the pond, which would be donated or deeded to the HOA of Wild Air and not the park system, and the landscaping. So one of the terms of this request is that signage is coordinated with the Parks Department, Ryan, so we do have a chance to make sure that educational component is included with any of that trailhead signage. Moving through their project, so as we go back to the site map, we'll also notice across from Johnson Preserve, there is the Archer Park and Coffee House. So this is a more activated space that the development is proposing within their project. And this will include a nature-based playground, paved accessible walking trails, public restrooms, as well as a splash pad. So this 2-acre park would not be donated to the park system, but should we grant a waiver of their impact fees, there would be a perpetual public easement on this. So what that does for our park system is allows the public to still enjoy these amenities, but it doesn't put the burden of upkeep of these more activated items onto the park system necessarily, and they would be maintained within the development or the ownership of that parcel.
Is there something that holds them accountable to a certain upkeep and quality of that space over time?
We can certainly further expand that. You know, we can rely on CPSI, the Certified Playground Inspection Standards for the play area. We can rely on accessibility for the walking trails. And we can probably come up with a couple of more guidelines to be upheld within that public perpetual.
I would-
That'd be my only concern.
I mean, I'm a, I guess, professionally big proponent of finding ways to creatively do things like this, but I where we protect the taxpayer interest. Descriptive about our expectations around what, where, how, what goes in, what's the level of quality, what's the purpose. So I would want to see some verbiage also around, you know, or give us some, I guess, I wouldn't want them to be able to be like, the splash pad's hard to maintain, so we're just going to close it. You know, they would need park board approval or something like that to change any of the programmatic elements beyond repair.
And we do have members of the development team that are here and can answer any questions or speak to that as well. So I'll invite them up if they'd like.
Please state your name and who you're with, please.
I'm Kimberly Hansen with Old Town Companies, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer with them. And then I'm here with Ryan Wire. He is one of the developers on this project, so he knows the most about how the amenities are currently designed. But we're certainly open to putting more standards on that. I think it's a good idea.
Ryan Wire, Old Town Companies, as Kimberly mentioned, so can mention it or answer any questions you may have.
My question would be about, separately from this, would be just about signage to make sure this didn't look like a subdivision park or something exclusively for the group, to make sure that it was clear that this was for the town and open to the public.
And we would definitely work with Jared and his team to produce that signage and get approvals.
I guess I have a question about some of the program components that are listed. There's the playground and the splash pad. The splash pad has a line item estimate of $45,000. That there a sense of scale around what this would look like, or like how is that number informed?
So that was from one of our pool, actually the company that's doing our pool at the clubhouse is the one that gave us that ballpark number.
Okay, so they're working on site already.
Correct.
And would that be, is that envisioned to be a recirculating system, or is it a?
It would be, yeah. All of the filtration and pumps would be tied to the pool, or the restroom building. So it definitely would be.
That was one thing I was going to say. There are going to be public restrooms that service this park, so there's opportunity for there to be a say on how those are designed, and we already understood that we would be working with the town on signage and
Question would be more for Jared, with the impact fees. What would we, for development like this, normally be collecting on the impact fees?
So for this project specifically, the total impact fee would be $1,006,399. 61,000, sorry about that. $1,061,399. Thank you, Amy. But what the project they're proposing, just as Ryan mentioned, about a $45,000 splash pad, I could not build a $45,000 splash pad. So there are opportunities for greater investment, in return, utilizing those fees than we could do even with those fees, trying to do those same amenities. So, I spoke to this a meeting or two ago about, this board and subsequent boards in the next couple of years are going to have a lot more development requests before them so we can build our park system. And that's a little new as far as building our park system side by side with development. But as far as donations and how we acquire our park system, that's not unique to how our story's been told. So I certainly caution you to evaluate each proposal before you and make sure that we're instituting parameters that are going to be upheld in perpetuity, for Zionsville residents that aren't here just yet.
Or just, I'm trying to dumb it down to my level. We're giving up on 1.061 million of impact fees. We're going to get $514,000 of investments into the Johnson, the woods of Elizabeth and Sylvester Johnson of Wild Air Farms. And so they're going to invest $514,000 of that. In addition, they'll invest over $1 million for, I don't know how you call this, a private-public partnership, but I mean, it's going to be your land, but you're using your economies of scale of your development to do this at more affordable than what we could. So overall, it's almost a win for the community of about $500,000 if we were to go forward with this.
Yeah.
What about being able to, if years down the road, there's an issue and the splash pad, as I mentioned, they can't just close it down without talking to the park or to the town. Is that feasible, or?
Would there be any concern with putting a parameter about requesting decommission of any of the programmed activities within that? I think
again, we're working, one of our clients right now is Henderson, Nevada, and they've, built parks like this almost exclusively for 20 years. It's been a great relationship, but they've got a lot of lessons learned, and I think a lot are
I'm more worried about
back end.
I'm with the homeowners association, like, oh, this is going to cost us, $50,000 to fix this, or we're going to shut it down and just abandon it. So that's what I'm talking about down the road. So
Right.
Not that what your guys are doing, just that that this is in perpetuity. It's going to stay. Then they need to communicate with the town if it ever is going to change.
Right. Well, it's not just that. It's also being like I said. I was trying to say that it's the success of these types of projects on the city side is often on the long term. So it's making sure, like you said, that whatever expectation, like if we're agreeing right now to certain program and a level of quality and experience, then there needs to be some language that says that it will be maintained to remain that unless there's an agreement reached to change it. And that there needs to be standards in place in the agreement that define our acceptable level of maintenance, and whatever that is. So I think we just need to, on our end, be very prescriptive about our expectations with regard to access, with regard to restroom access and hours and maintenance and CPSI testing and the intervals of that and all of those things. And I think if we get those in place, then that is a representative best practice of how to do projects like this, is partnering, to leverage their economies of scale. I mean, to Jared's point, if we were to quote a splash pad, I don't care how small it is, we'd be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we just have to make sure that we're protecting our interests long-term, I think.
Yeah, something along the lines that they will keep them up to the standards of that we would have for any of the other parks.
And that may be subject to the interpretation of the superintendent.
We have a maintenance standards policy I could just pull from.
We also put something in there about what's used for landscaping. To
Review of plantings?
yeah.
Yep.
Well, it'll have to go through some sort of site plan review, right?
Right. Yep.
So I think that would be also an example of another sort of best practice to integrate in relationships like this or agreements like this, is to engage the park board, not just at the approval process at the beginning or the end, but also sort of in the And I don't know that it has to be an entirely collaborative process, but it would be nice to, review progress on the design of, so that we can at least be aware of it and or provide input if it's relevant.
Jared, is this the first time we've done an agreement like this?
This is the first time we've done this for amenities, but we have utilized this exchange for land before. That's how we got Overly Warman.
I think, was it the artwork where we developed some guiding principles on? It may be worthwhile if Jared can see down the road that we're going to continue to go through this, it may be good for us to craft some guiding principles so that we kind of have a roadmap on how to approach this as we go forward.
I can work on that.
Very much a win-win as long as we are thinking long-term, like Ryan's saying, and
We're setting precedent.
yeah.
Well, the more of these that we have, I mean, without some sort of policy in place or design standards, which there's no reason to delay anything. We can have the one-offs for now, but looking into the future, those are also things to consider on our end is every single phase as it relates to quality or performance specs, because they have those established as a set of design guidelines to follow. So that's for another day, but I think as long as we can be prescriptive about the long-term obligation. What do we need today? A motion to accept the waiver subject to some sort of terms that I just...
Yeah, so consideration of Resolution 2024-07 related to the waiving of impact fees for the Wild Air development contingent on the prescribed parameters developed by the superintendent to uphold park standards.
I might recommend to, the resolution that you have in front of you and the Exhibit C included. The exhibit is the Park and Recreation Impact Fee Credit Agreement. That would be the place, I think, that a lot of this substance needs to be put in, and it's not in there yet. This is what's being proposed to us. This is in our draft. So I would suggest, I mean, if we can just maybe table the resolution, I think that because if you adopt the resolution, the exhibit is adopted along with it.
Accomplish that.
That would be my recommendation.
I do want to thank the Wild Air Development team for how thoughtful you are being about this project, in both the way you're thinking about public amenities, but also with the ILAD inclusion. So grateful to you all for being thoughtful partners.
Exciting to see that development kind of come to life. They're moving pretty quick out there.
As you're thinking about the resolution, one other thought I have is just future development adjacent to that parcel, making sure that there's, opportunity to bring access into that, So we live adjacent to Stonegate in the apartments there, and there's a path that leads into Stonegate, so we feel like we're welcome to walk through that neighborhood. And so making sure that, if it truly is going to be public and you have this public walking path, if there were a future development adjacent, that's part of one of the points of access as a clause or some sort. So.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to old business, Carpenter Nature Preserve Phase 1 construction bid.
Last month, we unveiled the Carpenter Nature Preserve bids and discussed the low bid with MatCon General Contractors for a base bid plus option one, alternative one, sorry, of $5,043,000. Tonight, for your consideration, would be to enter into that contract pending final legal review to begin that project with MatCon.
Good. A lot there. MatCon is a very good and strong company.
So I had a couple questions on it, Jared. Probably more for us to discuss as a board as well too. So if we go through with all these, and I appreciate how you spelled out where each one would come from, that's going to take 4671 should we approve the amounts that you proposed, take us down to just under $170,000. And then if we go forward with it, it'll take 4403 down to $15,857. So seems like we've been good financial stewards. We've planned for this. We've got the money sitting in the accounts to do it. It's going to deplete a lot of the accounts. And I just think for benefit of the taxpayers and a public forum, a debate about what are the trade-offs associated. So should we go down this path? What are we trading off in the future?
I think this project is an example of a good example of sort of the concept of opportunity cost. That there's a lot of things that have come together to make this happen that are unique and have taken a lot of willingness of other participants, whether those are private donors or grantors of multiple different agencies or entities, to bring something to Zionsville that I think we would have otherwise probably been incapable of doing independently of those relationships. So in this instance, I think it's a much larger magnitude example of kind of the project we just talked about, where we're having to come to the table with a significant amount of money. It's not an insignificant amount, but I think the return that we're getting as a community is substantially beyond the money that we're bringing to the table alone because of the other partners involved.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there's a grant that if the park's not open and used in a certain capacity, we won't get that grant. Is that correct?
Correct. There is the expectation that in a certain amount of years, the park will open.
What is that time? That was
When requesting,
2026?
it wasn't well-defined. The guidance I received from DNR at the time was, 2 to 5 years, okay, but, 7 to 10, we might have to have a conversation, so.
Well, and I think the other couple things to keep in mind with this project as we think about highest and best use of funds, which is always a relevant discussion because we don't have enough funds ever. No department does. But, this project is of an order of magnitude of a scale that is unlike anything else we have in our system. So it's adding a good amount of acreage, which is needed. It also happens to be in an area of growth, residential growth, and predicted future growth. So it happens to also be in kind of a right place, which is nice because that doesn't always happen. Sometimes we try to put ball fields in front of airports and other things like that, which if you got to do it, you got to do it. But this happens to have a pretty good location. And then another thing is, as you look at some of the work that Tricia and her team have done with the 5-year parks master plans and the public surveying, and as we've discussed, right, that wild spaces, natural areas, passive spaces are some of the highest priority elements and integral to the identity of a lot of Zionsville residents, and this happens to be really in line with that. So I think those things make it a unique opportunity to pass up. I think if we were talking about, a flat piece of farmland that we'd want to put a bunch of sports fields on or rectangles, I think it'd be a much more difficult conversation.
And just to second some of that, so while we are all exceptionally excited about Carpenter, we will continue to maintain our entire park system, which, is reflected through the other projects you're considering this evening. So utilizing our resources, even though they're limited, we attempt to extrapolate $3 out of every one we spend, whether that's through procuring grants, public-private partnerships, or other opportunities. So again, trying to satisfy the needs of our park system while still continuing to grow is the challenge. But so far, we're continuing to meet that or trying to keep up.
I think the only thing, I appreciate how you've outlined kind of where all the funds would come from. When it comes to the funds where you have here, good dialogue, right? I think I don't really have any concerns about that. I think the piece for me is the grant proceeds haven't hit the accounts yet. And so we're essentially committing almost $3.5 million more than what we tangibly see on our financial statements yet. That makes me a little bit leery just to approve it before it's actually hit the account. I think I would feel better about approving it after it hits the account, but I also want to know, are there any unintended consequences with timing that you're looking at?
There is one unfortunate pitfall, and I'm glad you brought that up. So we have a contract with the state that we are executing, and so that paperwork is processing, and those funds should land very soon, well before we issue the notice to proceed is my expectation. But, should we not approve this contract by this year's end and allocate the ARPA funds that are within this, we would lose those funds. So that's $75,000 towards the nature playground, which we don't have a secondary source lined up, so we might have to remove elements from the project to compensate for that.
Well, not only that, but my understanding is that ARPA funding would just completely disappear.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
there's no
it's not-
reapplication.
yeah.
It's gone.
And the
Approve
205,000?
it subject to the money showing up? You said the money's gonna be here any day,
Yes, yes.
so could we approve it with the, assumption or appending that the money shows up?
Yes, and we can provide any documentation you want to that signed, executed agreement, just to give you comfort that the money is, in the check's in the mail.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the money. I'm just, the executed contract with the state it seems pretty reasonable to me.
And that has been understood since 2023 when we closed on the land.
And do we have a commitment letter from the Zionsville Parks Foundation about the 205,000 we're assuming here?
Yes, so that was documented both within the ARPA request where they offered matching funds for the playground as well as the naming rights that are associated with some of the amenities on site. So we have sponsorships for the outdoor classroom, the wildlife blind, as well as the amphitheater, to name a few.
Valid. Questions? Any other questions or concerns?
What are we articulating the resolution as?
Accepting the bid from MatCon for $5,443,000 for the
Contingent
Phase
on-
1 contingency of grant.
Verification of grant proceeds as well as final legal review.
Legal review, yes. We have a motion to accept as presented.
Well, I'd make a motion to accept, subject to the additional terms you discussed, verifying the receipt of funds and final legal review of the director and council.
Second.
Roll call vote. Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Michael Kaufman.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
Kimberly Lane. Chad Dilley.
Aye.
Matt Milburn.
Aye.
And I, John Slevich, say aye as well. Motion carries. Fantastic. All right, Turkey Foot Nature Park Pedestrian Bridge Rehabilitation Bid. Blah, blah, blah.
It's a mouthful.
It is, all these are.
Also, last month, we discussed the sole bid we received for the Turkey Foot project, and that was from Morphe Construction, who recently did the Big Four rail trail widening for us here in town. Their bid for $598,000 was below our engineered estimate and within our 2024 budget allocation. So with your consideration would be to enter into an agreement with Morphe for the Turkey Foot Bridge Rehabilitation Project at an amount of $598,000 contingent on final legal review.
You remind us, Jared, how many bids were received?
This is the sole bid for this project.
But we've had good luck with the company.
Yep, and they've done exceptional work with similar projects.
What other questions or concerns about the bid?
Now, I'll make a motion to approve the bid by Morphe Construction as submitted.
I think, I just want to clarify, it's within the budget, right?
This is your 2204, 500, 490 construction line.
It has
900,000.
900 in it, right. So
Yes.
we're still within our allocation for the year.
Yes.
Okay. I just, for public record, we're spending a lot of money tonight, and I'm asking the questions that I kind of already know the answer to and the diligence that we've already done, just to make sure publicly it's known the level of diligence that we went to and what resources we do have to spend and how it's planned to spend the money.
I appreciate that.
All right,
Very much appreciated.
okay.
Contingent on final legal review.
Did you make the motion?
I did.
Okay, I second. We'll do a roll call vote. Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Michael Kaufman,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Matt Milburn,
Aye.
and I, John Slevich, say aye as well. Bid is approved, carries. All right, Overly Woman Park. We have a motion to approve the amended settlement agreement as discussed in the executive meeting, including submitment of payment within 90 days or the contract we voided, or?
No, I'll make a motion to approve, to approve the agreement as discussed contingent upon with the inclusion of a stipulation that any final pay applications must be submitted to the city within 90 days of tonight. And that if they are not submitted, then the contract is closed.
Second.
Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Michael Kaufman,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Matt Milburn,
Aye.
aye. John Slevich, say aye as well, too. Motion carries. All right.
Thank you. One more item under the Overly Warman Park old business, and that is to finish out the punch list items that are remaining from the original contract. In October, we released an RFQ with those exact parameters defined and received 2 competitive bids, of which Earth and Turf, a local Zionsville company, was the low bid with an estimated cost of $20,827.38. There is adequate funding within the encumbrance associated with this project that we can carry forward, and the contractor has let us know that they would be ready to begin work as soon as February 1st. With your consideration, we will work with our park board attorney to enter into a contract for those services.
Questions or concerns? Very good. It's a great price for what we're doing, so we have a motion to accept
$20,827.38.
with Earth and Turf and pending legal review.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Michael Kaufman,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Matt Milburn,
Aye.
and I, John Slevich, say aye as well, too. Motion carries. The related board items. Unfortunately, today is my last board meeting with for the town, and I want to thank Brian Traylor to give me the opportunity from the former town council to give me the opportunity to be on the board. I've been on the board for, this is my 5th year. I expected to be here for another 4, but I was not carried on. So I'm not too sure exactly why, but will not be here. Be honest, I'm devastated. This is my passion, this is my life. I studied geology and natural resources, and I wanted to be here for longer. So I'm sorry that you guys are going to have a bumpy road, because I don't know how many are coming back. So we got a young crew, so I'll help out as much as I can to get you guys started, but it's, you're kind of, just I was thrown to the weeds to run this, so,
John, thanks for your service.
John,
Appreciate
appreciate it.
Well, and we hope that you, given your passion for parks and your knowledge of the system, that regardless of what the role looks like, that you'll remain engaged and that we'll be able to have you as a resource as we continue to kind of shepherd.
I appreciate the the fellowship we have, and definitely be willing to help in any way I can, so.
One quick question before we depart. Jared, total grants for the Park District, how much have you received, you and your team, written and received for the Park District?
In my tenure, $9.5 million.
I mean, we went through the Carpenter Nature Preserve, right? 3.5 of that 5 million was based off of grants. Like, I think publicly, just want to say thank you for the work that you put into that. That we're not able to do what we do just off of our operational dollars, and that takes a lot of time and effort from you and your team to do that. So we appreciate that effort. Yep.
Thank you, Jared.
I think, you know, we work with a lot of departments across the country. I know Tricia and her team does too. And I think Zionsville, as of late, has done an exceptional job finding lots of partners and lots of different funding sources to really maximize the value that we get out of every taxpayer dollar. So it gives me confidence knowing when we're spending a lot of money like we are tonight, that we're getting a lot more in return too. So I just second that. Appreciate the effort, and we need every dollar we can find, so keep looking.
Jared does a great job. I think I wanted to add one more thing for what I mentioned. I was offered the Police Merit Board, but I declined it because that is not my cup of tea. So this is...
One more thing in regards to funding, and just something to think about for this board moving forward over the years, is that from my understanding and my observation is that the sustaining parks funding at the level that to be competitive as a region nationally, we are well behind where we need to be. This is not a concern solely for Zionsville. This is it's actually a statewide concern. And especially as our various, cities grow in population and those resources get stretched and strained, I think it would be wise for this group to consider opportunities to be in conversation with and dialogue with other counties and other communities around the state, but also initially just within the region. There's some early conversations around what do, sustain increased, public financing models or mechanisms look like. I think the solutions will be more successful at the State House if they're coming from, multiple counties of different political leanings. And so I just would encourage us all to be open to that conversation as it approaches, because we are woefully underfunded when it comes to parks in this state. So I think we've come up with a lot of really creative solutions as parks departments around the state, but I think it's a time and a need to look at that more closely.
I will echo that 10 times over.
Other comments? All right, claims. Everyone get a chance to review claims as presented. Any questions about the claims? Do we have a motion to approve claims as presented? We have a second.
Second.
Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Michael Kaufman.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
Kimberly Lane.
Aye.
Chad Dilling.
Aye.
Matt Milburn.
Aye.
And I, John Slovich, say aye as well, too. Claims are approved. So I will make a final motion to adjourn the meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.